kind of just from what I've had a chance to kind of analyze from the background, right?
Yes.
Because now we're listening in on calls and kind of getting an idea of everyone's own rhythm, because everyone has their own speed and they have their own comfort zones. And I had a chance to just only listen to one, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with the call. The bond was there. You could definitely tell that they trusted you.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this was at a point in the call where it may have been a pitch,
Okay.
because there was a question that asked the prospect, well, you know what, I could do this right now if you want. We could lock it in. I just need a couple documents, which is the right way to go about it, because you got to set up the expectation. Whereas like that being a point where you're going in, and that's when you're asking for the kiss, right? That's when you're asking for the business. And because the rapport was strong, and I can sense it because it was going back and forth,
right,
versus you just doing the only talking.
Gotcha.
And I think there was a couple even jokes passed along, like, you had that bond, and now you get to a point where everything is now on the line. It's either you're going to get rejected, or they're going to take it, right? Mm-hmm. And sometimes it's hard to lead them towards that conversation, because they keep saying, oh yeah, sounds great, okay, cool, sounds good. Mm-hmm. And then you got to go, it really matters on how you go in for the close. And from what I've learned, and I'll let you know a secret of how to do a few things. Number one is you can get your consent out of the way, mm-hmm, right? Either at that pitch call or before you go through the pitch. Me, preferably, I like to have them consent by email before I even go over any of the figures, because that's their gateway to get that information, right? Because it's always constant, okay, give and take, right? Okay. So consider that, because if they give you consent to receive the numbers, it means they're interested. So you got glue on the first call. Mm-hmm. If they don't, or they lag, it means that it means something, mm-hmm, right? Whether we miss something, or benefit of the doubt, maybe they're just busy and they don't have email on their cell phone. But there's just so many ways that they can consent. Correct. And even if they tell, oh, I'm just completely slammed, I'm sure there's a point where they use the restroom or what have you, right? So just maybe bring up the option of, well, when are you on break? But that's not the issue here. The issue is, it really is no issue. It's just more or less kind of just the watching it, or listening to the method. And what some top performers use, and I've used as well, is once you get that rapport, and they say sounds good, say, okay, cool, let me show you how to get it. And the word play is important, but you want to use whatever words you're comfortable with. Right. But the intention here is you're not even asking for the sale. You're actually you're setting up the expectation. You're saying, okay, cool. So you know what? I agree with you. It does sound good. It actually sounds like a perfect fit. Let me go and show you how to do it now. So I'm going to need a few items here. Once I validate that you can proceed, then I'll confirm with you that we can actually start the process, and I can have an appraiser out there probably as soon as this weekend. But I can't validate anything unless I have the documents in. Mm-hmm. So what I'll do is you can use a method of saying, hey, I can do a 24-hour reservation. Mm-hmm. Meaning that if the market worsens tomorrow, right, that you'll be protected, but I need at least some documents. Can you snapshot me a copy of your mortgage statement? And again, it's cell phone, right? You just want to see what kind of engagement you have. Okay. Where if they don't even want to consider doing a cell phone, maybe they're older, right? So I don't know how to play with that, sure, or whatnot. Then that's a different story. But if they interact with you and they send you a snapshot, then that's something that I would commit to. I would say, you know what, they're ready. Okay. Right? Whereas if they say, oh, I need to talk to my husband, or I need to talk to my wife, or, oh, I need to get back to this one lender real quick, then that's probably something I wouldn't lock yet, because it seems that they're not content yet. Right. Right. And so what do you do when you get those responses? How do you reply back? What if they say, at the end, you actually go in for the close and you tell them what to do, and then they tell you, I need to talk to my spouse?
Well, ultimately just set an appointment. Great, that's awesome. When is your spouse going to be ready?
Sure.
If she's at work, it's like, great, let's set something up tonight. Is she available now? let's see if we can get them together. Ultimately, is just try to tie down a timeline when I can call them back.
Got it.
And then confirm the email and then the phone number, and then set my BB to call them back at that time.
How often do you run into that?
Fair amount.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, fair amount normally.
On that, just because I do know that they play a role,
Mhm.
right? Because I'm married, you're married as well, I think, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So we know that a good way to avoid that,
Mhm.
because what will happen is if you pitch them, and let's say you do land the appointment with the spouse, now you got to pitch it all over again,
Sure.
right? So that could be a 2-hour process versus a 45-minute process,
Correct.
and even worse yet, let's say you can't land the appointment, we now leave it up to that one spouse to explain what you and I are professionals at, right? So we understand the verbiage, we understand the works, and if there's a question from that of the spouse we pitched may not be capable of answering that the way we want to, right?
Right.
And so usually, when you do your first call and you do the application, you get all the nuts and bolts of what we're going to present to them. That ends the first call, right? So there's really no numbers being given out. If there are, it's usually arranged. But when you set up the next call for the appointment to review, start planting seeds of you may need that other person to be present because their name is on the loan, or because they are your spouse, and methods that I would use is saying during the conversation, I would say, just out of curiosity, when you guys send out the bills, who's one in charge, right? And usually they'll say my spouse is, or they'll say I am. Even then I'm going to say, okay, just to make sure that my numbers are correct, I do need all parties available. That way I can address any questions you have. I'm in the office till 7 or till 6, or what time can I either conference you in, or you can put me on speakerphone. And when you assume it that way and you kind of set it up, they believe they both have to be present in order to gain the information, right?
Right.
And then even if they do give you more kickback, you can say, well, you know what, I'm a direct servicer, so the information I give to you is actually live time, meaning that the information I give to you is actually going to be based on the market at the time of that conversation. And so if there are any questions that I can address, I can have it all accurate based on the figures, versus release it to you and then market changes or improves. Right. You're going to be looking at outdated information. So this is the only advantage I can give to you, is I can only give you information that's applicable, right? Versus like a radio commercial or TV commercial, and say you're only going to need a few minutes of your time. You don't need to be in the same location. When they're en route home or you're en route home, I can conference you all in, and it's a good method to do that, because you now have an opportunity to express to the spouse who you didn't talk to yet that you understand the situation, right? So like just say, hey, Jamie, Jamie's a spouse, right? Hey, Jamie, I talked to Daniel, and earlier today he shared with me your guys' goals and intentions, and I believe that based on the information he shared, I can help you with the monthly payment savings, because he had mentioned that you guys needed to replenish money you used on fixing the backyard. He also mentioned to me that your overtime had declined as well, so I'm going to see if I can help offset that. Now, in our first call, he did mention that you sent out the bills, and I have a few questions for you real quick. How much are you sending out on this? Does this sound right? How much you sent on these bills? Because usually what I'll do is I'll spend the deferral and the escrow refund for them.
Right.
Meaning that, hey, since you're doing this refinance, you're actually going to come across about $3,000 of cash flow anyway. And so the reason why I asked you how much you're sending on these 3 credit cards is because they all 3 equal a $3,000, and you're spending $100 each. So that's an extra $300 that I could put on your monthly savings. However, that's your choice. If you decide to keep that $3,000, replenish your bank account because of the backyard, the bottom line is you have the option, right? Now that's a better way of conveying it. And say, this is what I plan to do. You had mentioned that, this on the first call, so this would be the solution, but I wanted to get your feedback first before I release it in writing. Right? We can take your total payment from here down to here, and this is going to be your, this will be your monthly savings. I can cover the lender fee. Right? Never explain the rate. And so, or I could do it here, and then you can actually finance any of the closing costs. You don't have to pay it out of pocket, but this will be your payment. So dependent, and then give them a recommendation. Say, based on our conversation, sounds like you plan to be here long term. Either way, either option is good for you, but I wanted your feedback. What are your thoughts on this? And then of course they're gonna be like, oh yeah, that sounds great. Sounds like you're just achieving it. Perfect. Let me show you how to get it now. Right? Versus, okay, well, I can lock this if you guys want to. Don't do that, because then it kind of puts a pen in their hand. They believe that that they're committed,
right,
where they're not yet, because
right,
we can't commit to them,
right,
right?
right.
And so when we set up the expectation to make them perceive the information as to, okay, cool, sounds good, but you don't have it yet. I need to confirm that you are capable of getting this. Now it's almost like they got to prove themselves to you,
Okay.
right? And
Right.
you want to keep it that way, because when you're consulting, you're not selling,
Right.
right? And I believe consultant, you're going to have more of a of loyalty from them, especially in this market,
Right.
because if the market changes, they're going to want to be the one that felt heard, not the one that felt sold.
Okay.
You know, and a lot of our competition is weak anyway, because they
Right.
don't have the resources or, you know, the tools that we have. So we already have a handicap on them for that.
Right.
But what if you get an objection that says, hey, you know what, I want to go ahead and think about it.
Again, just I understand where you're talking, what your concern is. I mean, what are you thinking about? Basically, try to find out exactly why is this not a good idea for you.
Sure.
So obviously, I missed something if you're thinking about it. So
Sure.
depending on what the response is, if it's something that I can address then and there, great. If not, great. I mean, it really comes down to why you're thinking about it.
Yep. And it can go in so many ways, right? Because if we don't have the other spouse there, then they can say, oh, I need to think about it because my spouse doesn't know about it yet.
Right.
And so we make sure the spouse is there. We eliminate that. If they say, oh, I want to think about it because I'm getting other quotes,
Right.
then that's a different path, right?
Sure.
So we'll go over 2, just to kind of give just in case would you say you're running into this?
Yeah, I mean,
After pitch?
yeah, I mean, yeah, I mean, when it comes, I guess because the 3 purchases that seem to be serious,
Mm-hmm.
okay, where I'm getting some income documentation, everything like that, it's just, it's not because of the rapport, but because there was right here in Irvine, got a great, even though he had some experience because he was gonna represent himself as a realtor because he has a sales license, even though he knows nothing of residential lending in any way, shape, or form.
Sure.
Developed a great rapport. Explained to him what to expect at closing because these are some of the surprises that you may.
Yeah.
And we're right here, especially when it comes to escrows and be November and February when you buy a property right this time of the year. Why am I paying 8 months worth of property taxes?
Sure.
And then so trying to go through that and explain that to and that really developed that rapport between the borrower and myself.
Sure.
And again, I've only been here for a month, and it's just trying to find my way. But ultimately, it's if I can overcome the pricing issue when it does come up, it doesn't always come up.
Sure.
You know what I mean? I mean, like this one here, this new American funding. She's just, I need to get this done. We didn't talk about rate, nothing. Just like, can we get this done? She's had obviously she had a positive experience. So it really depends on case by case. But when it does come to something like that, what would you do in that particular case? Okay.
Yeah, so like on a purchase
Yeah.
or technically anything that has to do with basically it's the prospect believing that they have a plan, right? And so it's not a conversation where you're about like, hey, your plan's not going to work. Your plan isn't as good as mine.
Right.
Although that's the message, right? So it's really kind of just the wordplay involved. And so, for example, instead of selling why they should go with our plan, is more or less consulting the pain if they didn't go with our plan, right? So in this case, in this example, if you had someone who said, oh, you know what, I'm going to be a realtor, I'm brand new to the game, and I'm going to go ahead and step up and handle this. You want to say, that's a great noble cause, but at the end of the day, with as much as on the line on a purchase deal, because when you enter into a purchase agreement, you generally have to have monies on the line, you have to have everything lined up, just to secure your spot because it is a purchase market. The last thing you want to do, especially if you get an offer accepted, is come in with a shaky structured loan, because you don't want to be 2-3 weeks into the process just to find out that one thing was not looked at and now the entire process has to stop and then you lose your earnest money.
Right.
So, and I say I've seen it so many times.
Right.
Now here's the advantage that I can bring to you is that we are so embedded with the community all throughout the country that the realtor relationships and the relationships that we have with buyers and sellers agents kind of give us that signature, like, okay, this is New American Funding, this is a pre-approval letter that's signed by an underwriter, not by a lender.
Right.
So we're recognized as doing our homework up front. Whereas if you were with a lender who didn't do their homework up front, that just opens you up to much surprise and more risk. Right. So if you're looking to go about this thing the right way and actually experiencing it done the right way, being you're new, then I would strongly recommend having us as more of a mentor through the process. You're going to want to use our connections to get yourself to the front of the line. You're going to want to use our underwriters to make sure you have a bridge to cross. If you go about it any other way, it's just more of a crapshoot. Right. But that's your call. You know, you do have the alternative to take it on by yourself, and I respect that. But at the same time, there's money on the line. Right. If that money's important to you, then I would recommend probably getting the consulting from us first. We'll show you how it's done right. Right. More importantly, we'll help you co-brand later on. But that's just something that we offer. Kind of downplay it, right? Right. But when you get because that is the plan. That prospects have ideally this alternative, right? Like, oh, I got a plan. I can check with my bank, or I got a plan because I'm going to hear back from these other competitors, right. And that is the plan. And so, how do you get through that? Right. And so the way to get through it is say, no, you know what? I completely respect that. By the way, just out of curiosity, if there was an option, or if there was a number that I could give you today with regards to monthly payment savings, because there's a savings here and the benefits here is clearly here. Would you agree? Yes. Got it. If there was something that I can that you were looking for that maybe I missed in order to say, you know what, this is the one, let's just get it off our to-do list. Mm-hmm. What would that be? Mm-hmm. And that kind of nails it down. And it says, oh, you know what, the fee. Or, oh, you know what, I think I was quoted this rate. No worries. How were you quoted that rate? Oh, I heard it on the radio. How long ago? Right. About a month ago. Okay, well, here's the thing is that you do have the alternative to go with these other companies just to see what they got. But at the end of the day, we all get our milk from the same cow, mm-hmm. if that makes sense. And what I mean by that is we all go to the same 4 designations. Mm-hmm. It's Fannie, Freddie, VA, or FHA, mm-hmm. right? There's no other way to get your home finance. Right. There is, but then you got prepayment penalties and balloon loans, and you're not about that. Mm-hmm. So here's where I'm getting at is that you have the alternative to see what they can offer, but the only advantage I can bring to you is I'm a direct plug to the source, meaning that I'm more interested in having you join our portfolio right. versus originate your loan and sell it off. Right? And you say, have you ever had that? It's like, oh yeah, I've had that. Damn servicing company effed everything up. My taxes got messed up. Perfect. That's the advantage I could bring to you is avoiding that. So kind of just sort of go over the benefits again. You are saving this much money. You are saving this much money. Let's say savings like $150, right? Right. Say you are saving this, and by all means you can wait. But given the condition of the market right now, I would say lock it in and worry about the restructuring during the process. Now, we're going to make it super easy, but I'm also going to be your point of contact, meaning that you do have the alternative. You could spend $150 more. You can continue doing the shopping, but at the end of the day, if you have that extra time, might as well just spend it to where you have a result, and this is where it is. Right. So here's the thing, is that I can't even offer this to you, right? I still need to demonstrate that you're even approved to consider starting the process. Right. So let's do this. I can help you by validating at least this. That way, you have a bridge across, and kind of just narrow it down to that, and get them in the process. Because in very least, if they still don't comply and they don't send at least a mortgage statement or pay stub just to validate their application, just say then I'll go and withdraw the application. I'd hate for the inquiry to happen out of vain, especially considering that you're just going to end up right back to the same places that we are a direct servicer for. So here's why most clients choose New American Funding is because of our relationship and tenure with these 4 designations. Mm-hmm. This is why we have the highest rank of full Eagle lender. I'm an automatic servicer for VA. These are, I know these names don't mean much to a consumer, but if you think of Boy Scouts, our rank is at the highest. Mm-hmm. And this is what enables us to get the fast processing, the lower rates, no broker points, no broker fees. Right? So if that's something that you're looking for, congratulations, you found it. Now I'm going to show you how to get it, and just assume the close and go out of it, right? Because when you get into the friction, it's more of a kind of a like an argument almost, right? And say, yeah, but you should go with this one. Why not? Just go. The rate's but the rate might get worse, and then that tone comes out, and now that tone almost creates that that bond that can't be repaired anymore. You know what I mean? It's like, oh man, I left on a bad tone. I don't want to look like a fool if I go to this guy. Correct. right? So you still want to leave the dialogue open where if they email you in a month or two, you just pick up from where you left off. And then that's also going to determine on on the disclosures, right? So if you're not getting any play from this guy, then and he still didn't give an e-consent, then just adverse it. Right. That way you can avoid a mail out, because if they get it in the mail, then they're gonna be like, "What is this? I told you not to."
I'm with you. Yeah, no. So yeah, definitely save the money. Yeah, save the company money. So ultimately, trying to find the best way to. Because I'm pulling credit all the time. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
I just gotta follow suit on maybe set.
I think the syntax is the sequence of how it happens. Right. And in short, and if I could leave you with this in summary. The very first phone call is almost like speed dating, right? You have to extract as much information as you need to make sure that they're a right fit, versus talking more about selling the company. Now, the gates of the sale is going to tell you this, but in my opinion, I wouldn't talk and sell the company if I discovered that this person couldn't even do a loan to begin with, right? So the faster you can identify that and disengage, the better. But at the same time, there's that line in the sand where you don't want to go about it in that mindset if your mindset isn't there. Meaning that if you're frustrated and you're actually looking for ways to get off the phone, then don't use that method. Because you're going to look for everything and it's going to come through your tone. So genuinely look at and make sure that they have the credit, the income, the capacity, and the equity, to move forward. But in summary, in what I've noticed in the very first call, it's really just about identifying what the goals are, right? Their why. And I haven't had a chance to listen to your first call, but someone, obviously if we get a call from someone, their main goal is to lower rate, right? So it's really just a matter of, okay, perfect, what would you do with the monthly savings, right? And it really is the content of that conversation that's going to sell the loan. Your second call is more or less just going to create the momentum to secure it, but it's actually sold in the first call because you're getting everything that you need to sell that person. And where I think that most of the time the second call fails is because agents are more about kind of the result versus the process. Meaning that in the process of the first call, they'll accept, I just want this rate. Okay, cool. Let me see if I can get that rate. No context there, right? Versus saying, okay, I just want a lower rate. Perfect. What would you do with the monthly savings? Okay, you plan to do this. I plan to put it towards other debt. Okay, cool. Now I know how to sell you on the second call. I plan to put the extra savings towards the balance of my mortgage. Okay, cool. This might be something that I can write an ICANN for, right? Even if they had a 3.5%, and I knew that's not available today, I'm going to find out what they plan to do with that savings. And if it's to pay off debt, then I'm going to find out what their FICO score is. Then I'm going to find out how much they're paying towards debt. So even if I have to do them on an FHA loan with mortgage insurance, it makes sense, And I think that if you can gather those pieces or those ingredients in the first call, the second call is more or less just confirmation of how to proceed. It's not necessarily a pitch. And so in the first call, when you leave it to the second, you always want to mention, say, hey, I'm going to have the information probably in the next couple hours. I do need your Mrs. or Mr. to be available just so I can confirm some of the information. What time can I give a call for both of you? And right then and there, I'll remind them, you guys don't need to be in the same location. I can actually conference you two in. I'm only going to need about 5 minutes. And then once you get that time, of course, add it to your calendar, and do the best you can. But when let's say their call was 2 p.m., you got them conferenced in. Give them a call, but open up the pitch this way. Go into the pitch saying, hey, you know what? I'm actually putting the information together. Sorry for the delay. I wanted to send it out by now so you could see it in black and white. But I had an idea and I wanted to run it by you real quick and get your feedback. Thank you, Mrs. Jones, for joining the call. I'm happy you're here because I'm going to need you to help me confirm a few things. And say, I had a discussion with Daniel earlier today and he shared with me, A, B, and C. This is the goal. You guys plan to use the monthly savings. You have to get them both back into that mindset, right? And say, because you had mentioned that you plan to be here long term, or say because you mentioned you need monthly savings or whatever the main goal was, say this is what I had as an idea. I want to run it by you. I could take this total monthly payment, bring it down to here with no fees, all right? And this gives you the payment deferral, the escrow refund. You can use it to pay off this debt, increase your monthly savings by $200-300, and now I'm saving you this much money. However, if you guys do plan to keep this house long term, you can also go this route, not build any of the closing costs into the interest rate, and this would be your monthly payment.
Right.
Still no out-of-pocket costs besides the appraisal, but what's your feedback on it?
Right.
And then they're going to be like, oh yeah, you know what, I want that one. Okay, cool, let me show you how to get it. So now you're not even asking, you're more or less like funneling them.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
And it works very smooth if you can get it down pat. And I think that you'd be able to do it very well because you have your tone, the way you talk, you have a good ability to gain rapport.
Right.
You know, very trustworthy tone.
Yeah, and I think that's where I feel if I can capitalize on that, because obviously getting the door is not a problem, right?
Sure.
How I mean, getting credit reports is not a problem. You
Sure.
know, running credit, so getting reports is funneling them in, definitely. So
Yeah.
I can get those, I guess those tools, right? Just like you said, coordinating it, making sure, bringing them back in. This is what we can do for you, and not really focus on rate, just on monthly savings, on pain, whatever their pain is, and then focus
I
on
think that will be just it. Refrain from pitching on the first call.
Right.
Refrain from getting any information on the first call. Before you show your cards, make sure all parties are at the table, because there will be times where you just can't get the other person,
Right.
and that's fine. You know, do your very best on mounting it up, and always consider you may have to do the pitch again.
Right.
You know, and that's fine, but sometimes you kind of want to just put them in a position where you can take them off the street right away.
Right.
And it's easier to do that if they're both there. Cool.
Yep.
Yeah, outside of that, anything else I can help out with? Like the traffic, the system?
No, just not yet. I haven't really. Obviously, it's just growing pains, right?
Sure.
Trying to figure out the system.
Sure.
But yeah, so I don't have anything where it's not a non-issue right now.
Cool, man. Well, you're probably doing all these things that we talked about already. You just got to find your groove.
Yeah, that's the key.
Yeah.
Definitely gotta find, because people are doing it. It's not like it's not doing it.
Right.
And
Right.
It's number one. Number two, it's not like I'm new.
And I'm always shooting out the reports too, you know. The team, if you haven't seen or at least heard by now from where you're at, we're all family, dude.
I know.
So if you see anybody at the top of the list or anything, they're always more than happy to take a quick call or just walk by.
Yeah.
You know, just the best way to open it, because sometimes it's awkward to open it. Right? Like, hey, can you help me? Is say, hey man, I'm noticing you on the charts. Great job. My name is David. Just started over here, and I'm gonna get to where you're at. I'll see you soon.
Sure.
Hey, just out of curiosity, just kind of fluff them up a little bit, and I think that they'll. You don't have to, but it's always the best way to go about it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, even same thing with operations, and what's cool about here is that they give you enough support and tools to take off a lot of admin work from your plate. So all you have to do is originate. And so when you figure out that system, much like I would actually maybe stop by Dustin's desk, because it's his second month, so he's only got a couple weeks on you.
Sure.
And but apparently the numbers shot him up.
Yeah, definitely.
So he
nice.
figured out something.
Yeah.
But he's also good friends with Savi, who's right next to you. Savi's very strong in what he does.
Right.
It's just the application.
Right.
So, put that to some thought, and I appreciate the